Hello everyone and welcome to another random bits and pieces segment from my brain, and today, sit a while for we are playing some more Franchise Hockey Manager 6 as part of the Ottawa Senators. So today we are going to be playing February of 2007, and if you've been following my playthrough for a while, you know that February is usually the month that I go ahead and offer contract extension to players that I am willing to keep around, either for depth or to be on the team, obviously. So we can see that I have quite a few contract extensions there. So I'm going to go ahead and go through them pretty quick. So Klepish, Kegorodov, that's depth. I don't think that any of those guys are going to really make the team. Robin Regier, he's been playing for us this year and he's been alright. Mostly I'm bringing him back because he's asking for very little money. Martin Avlat is asking for a little bit more money, not all that much, and he's having a decent season so far this year, 22 points in 37 games, so I'm trying to bring him back. Chris Kelly is asking for quite a bit of money, but I do need forwards that are pretty good defensively. Chris Kelly is that, so I will be paying him top dollars for that. Chris Neal, I'm bringing him back. He's not asking for a lot of money. Mark Streit is asking for a big raise, but he's also playing really well, so I am bringing him back. Sheldon Surrey, I pointed out at the end of the last video that Sheldon Surrey is kind of having a bit of a disappointing season, and he is, but the money that he's asking for is a very small increase on his current salary, so I figured why not. Kind of the same thing for Daniel Alfredson. Alfredson is getting older, but he's still a capable player, and he's also not asking for a huge upgrade, so I am bringing him back despite his age. I know that I mentioned in the past that perhaps I would go ahead and trade him, but it looks like I changed my mind. Ryan Callahan is going to be coming back. He's young, and basically that's a qualifying. It would have been a qualifying offer, but I'm offering him an extension. Marian also is being brought back. He is also not asking for that big of a raise, so come along, buddy. Patrick Eves, same deal, really not asking for a lot more money. I think he's asking for like not even $200,000 increase. And then Eric Condra is a young guy, so I'm bringing him back. So now there's really two names that we need to talk about that I am not going to be bringing back. One of them is our captain, Alexei Yashin. Yashin is 33. He's still putting up points, but he's declining in ability. And the coach is not playing him every single game. Now, I know I'm not going to keep Alain Vigneault either, but I think it's time to move on from Alexei Yashin, so I'm going to keep him on the team, and I'm going to try to trade him, basically trade his rights after the season, and see if I can get something for him. Then there's another guy that I am moving away from, mostly because he wants a lot more money and he's getting older, and that's Brian McCabe. So Yashin and McCabe have been staples of this team for a very long time, and I am going to be moving away from them at the end of the season. I am not going, since I am at the top of the Eastern Conference standings, I am not going to try to trade them, prior to the playoffs or anything like that. But after the season, I'm going to try and trade their rights and try to salvage something for them. So that's pretty much where we're at with signing players like that. So we are going to go ahead and get started here, and we are going to be hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs here in a couple days. Also looking at the schedule, it looks like it's going to be more home games than away games in February again, which kind of makes me scared for, well, not scared, but looks like March is probably going to be a month where we play on the road a lot, and typically March is a month where we play a lot of games, so that might be a little bit of a tougher stretch in the schedule there. Alright, so let's get going. Of course, as we know, we're going to get a bunch of messages here about players kind of signing deals. Sorry. So Jim Fahey is back from suspension with Atlanta, back in the lineup. Eugene Melnick is still very happy with me. We went 11-0-1 last month. Alright, so Daniel Alfredson signed. Avlat signed. Cannon, they're all gonna sign. And I went through all of them one by one already, so I'm just gonna go ahead and delete all of that. There you go. And Colby Armstrong is yet again available on waivers. Also, Vananen is available on waivers. That's interesting. And Chris O'Sullivan. Suspension for Tony Ludman in Calgary. He's going to miss 4 games. Igor Ulanov has recorded 1,000 games played in his career. That's pretty good. We haven't heard a lot about Igor Ulanov. Didn't get suspended much or anything like that, but hey, he's still playing. He's in St. Louis. That was against the Red Wings. 37 years old, still a star player. Alright, and now we are going to be hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs. So the Leafs are pretty good this season. They are 31-14-7. That's good for 4th in the East. And we are 2-3 against the Leafs this year. So it's one of the teams that have given us some problems. So hopefully we can turn that around here in front of our fans. Alright, so they're going to go ahead and send Ty Conklin. We are going to Brian Elliott. And we won 5-3, so kind of a tight game. Could have gone either way. Not in shots, though. We outshot Toronto 44-24. Jason Spezza was the first star of the game. He had a goal and 3 assists. Travis Zajac was the second star with 2 assists. And Brian McCabe probably disappointed he didn't get a contract extension, decided to start playing, and he got 3rd star with 2 goals and an assist. So we had 14,808 people in attendance for this game. We scored first 3 seconds into the first period. Wow. Jason Spezza from Mark Streit and Joe Thornton. It was 1-0 after 3 seconds of play already. And then Toronto tied the game shortly after. It was tied at 1. And then we scored 2 goals. So Pavel Datsyuk scored from Brian McCabe and Jason Spezza. And then Brian McCabe from Jason Spezza and Pavel Datsyuk 3-1 after 1. Then in the second period, Brian McCabe scored his 10th from Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza. It was 4-1 after 2 at that point. Then Toronto scored 2 goals to come to within 1, but then Alexei Yashin scored on the power play in an empty net with 11 seconds to go in the game from Mark Streit and Martin Avlat. 5-3 is the final score. Alright, so we started with a win. That's good. Yaroslav Modry extends his goal streak to 5 games. He had a goal against Atlanta. Suspension over for Paul Gostad with the Flyers. He is back in the lineup. Good game for Yevgeny Malkin, who had a hat-trick 3 goals against Washington. Alright, and Zdeno Chara is feeling better, might be playing now. Alright, and we are not playing until in 3 days. We are going to be playing a road game in Buffalo. Alright, Zdeno Chara on the brink of returning. That's good. And John Madden extended for 3 years with New Jersey. Good for him. They don't say how much they're going to pay him, though. Probably too much. Alright, Tom Fitzgerald has tallied 1,250 games played in his career. Wow. And that happened against Calgary. He did get an assist in the game. So 38 years old Tom Fitzgerald, still a star-and-a-half player. Saku Koivu has reached 600 points in his career, celebrated with 2 assists against Carolina. 32 years old, Saku Koivu, 2.5 star player, so pretty good. Right, and Zdeno Chara is ready to play now, so he is completely recovered. And then there's been a trade between St. Louis and Pittsburgh. Ooh, alright, so Andrew Hutchinson is going to St. Louis. And the Penguins are getting Barrett Jackman. So 2 very different defensemen. Andrew Hutchinson is more of an offensive defenseman. He had 35 points in 41 games. That's pretty good. Barrett Jackman is really a defensive defenseman. Interesting trade. Alright, so we're going to be playing 2 games in 2 nights. So we're going to be playing in Buffalo tonight. So the Sabres are struggling. They are 21, 32, and 2. That's good for 12th in the East. We are 5-0 against the Sabres. Brian Elliott in net for us. Martin Biron in net for the Buffalo Sabres. And we won 5-2. Ooh, we outshot Buffalo 62-21. Jason Spezza was the first star of the game. He had 2 goals. Pavel Datsyuk was the second star with 2 assists. And Brian McCabe was the third star with a goal. Alright, so we scored twice in the first period. Patrick Elias scored his 10th from Brooks Lake and Marinosa. Then Brian McCabe from Joe Thornton and Pavel Datsyuk. It was 2-0 Sens after 1. Then in the second period, Jason Spezza scored from Chris Kelly and Daniel Alfredson, and then Mark Streit on the power play from Pavel Datsyuk and Daniel Alfredson. It was 4-0. At that point, then Buffalo scored twice, made it 4-2 before the end of the second period. But then in the third period, Jason Spezza scored from Mike Fisher and Daniel Alfredson, and we had a final score of 5-2 in that one. Oh, shortly after celebrating his 1,250th game in the NHL, Tom Fitzgerald got suspended in Chicago. He's going to miss 7 games. Alright, and now we are going to go back home and play against the Montreal Canadiens. Actually, it's a home and home against them because in 2 days we're going to go play in Montreal. Alright, so Montreal is 36, 18, and 1. That's good for 4th in the East. We are 3-1-1 against Montreal. We usually put a lot of goals up on Carey Price. So they're sending Carey Price in net. We're going with Brian Elliott. And we won 3-0. Good job. And we outshot Montreal 30-20 in that one. Pavel Datsyuk was the first star. He had 3 assists. Patrick Elias was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Sheldon Surrey was the third star with a goal. 19,768 people in attendance for that game. So in the first period, we had Patrick Elias score on the power play from Pavel Datsyuk. It was 1-0 after 1. Then in the second period, Chris Kelly scored from Mike Fisher and Pavel Datsyuk, made it 2-0 Sens. And then in the third period, Sheldon Surrey scored his 10th in an empty net from Pavel Datsyuk and Patrick Elias. 3-0 Sens was the final score. Nice little shutout for us. But Sheldon Surrey got hurt in that game. Yeah, he's just day-to-day with knee soreness. Alright. So in a couple of days we're going to play Montreal again, except in Montreal this time. Good game for Glenn Murray. He had a hat-trick against the Hurricanes. No one could stop Radim Verbata with Colorado. He had 3 goals and an assist against Atlanta. Passes on point from Michael Handzus, who had 4 assists against the Red Wings. Jamie Rivers is available on waivers. I'm not going to pick him up. And instead, I am going to focus on the Montreal Canadiens, whom, after losing against us, are 36, 19th, and 1 now. That's still good for 4th in the East. And obviously now we are 4-1-1 against them. So let's see. We're going to Brian Elliott, and they're going to send Patrick Roy in net for that one. They're going to see if they can do better with Casso, was his French nickname for Patrick Roy. So let's see. We won 3-2. It was a little bit tighter, but we did win. We outshot Montreal 42-24 in this game. Jason Spezza yet again, first star with 3 assists. Stephen Weiss was the second star with 2 assists, and Alexei Yashin was the third star with 2 assists as well. Alright, so nobody scored in the first period. Then we scored all of our goals in the second. Mark Streit scored on the power play from Jason Spezza and Martin Havlat. Brian McCabe on the power play as well from Alexei Yashin and Jason Spezza, and then Martin Havlat on the power play as well from Jason Spezza and Alexei Yashin. It was 3-0 Sens on the power play after 2. We made them pay for those 3 penalties they took. Sean Avery elbowing, we scored. Ed Jovanovski charging, we scored. Sean Avery interference, we scored. And then Montreal scored twice in the third period, but it was too little too late, even though they still had like 12:35 to go after their second goal. They couldn't put one more past Brian Elliott, so we won that 3-2. Rafi Torres' suspension ends. He is back in the lineup with the Islanders, and so is Tony Ludman in Calgary, also back from his suspension. Alright, we are going to go back home to play 3 home games, and in 3 days it's going to be against the Florida Panthers. Kip Miller is suspended in Chicago. He is going to miss 4 games. There was no stopping Sergei Mozyakin, who had 3 goals and 3 assists, wow, against Chicago in that same game. Woo. And still in that game, Paul Stastny had a great game. He had 4 goals and 2 assists. And Mickey Dupont is suspended in Calgary. He's going to miss 7 games. That's interesting because Mickey Dupont wasn't in Calgary earlier in my universe. He was with Montreal, but in real life, Dupont played for the Flames. And now that's where he's at, except not right now because he's going to be suspended for 7 games. Alright, so a couple of days we're going to play the Panthers. Not a whole lot going on in the league until then. Oh, there was a trade between the Dallas Stars and the Los Angeles Kings. Ooh, so Anson Carter and Steve Gainey are going to the Kings for Wes Walz and the rights to Matt Zoltek. Oh, Anson Carter has started to decline a little bit. So I guess the Stars did get the best player. I mean, Wes Walz is more of a defensive player, but Anson Carter is starting to decline here. Maybe not a great trade for the Kings. Alright, so we are about to play the Florida Panthers. So the Panthers are finally not last in the East anymore. They are 19-32-7, and we are 1-1 against Florida this year. So Jason LaBarbera is going to be in net for Florida. We are going to Brian Elliott. And we won in overtime, 3-2. Looks like the Panthers are giving us some trouble this season. We did outshoot them 42-24 with Pavel Datsyuk getting the first star with a goal and an assist. Jason LaBarbera, despite the loss, was a second star with 40 saves, and Sergei Samsonov was a third star with an assist. We had 14,487 people in attendance for this game. And Jason Spezza scored the first goal of the game. It was his 35th from Pavel Datsyuk and Joe Thornton, 1-0 after 1. Then Ryan Kessler tied the game up in the second period, and then Pavel Datsyuk scored his 15th from Patrick Elias and Daniel Alfredson. We were up 2-1 after 2. And then Jay Boomister tied the game up late in the third period, so that sent us to overtime. And there was a fight between Nathan Horton and Brian McCabe. Nobody scored in overtime, and that went into the shootout where Joe Thornton gave us the win with the last goal scored. Eric Baudouin is available on waivers. Suspension for Sean Avery in Montreal. He's going to miss 10 games. In that same game, no one could stop Saku Koivu, who had a hat-trick, 3 goals against the Devils. Milan Michalek extends his goal streak to 5 games with a goal against the Nashville Predators. Of course, Sens fans would be very familiar with Milan Michalek. Right, Sheldon Surrey starting to feel better. And now we are playing against the Atlanta Thrashers. Zach Parise has a great game. He had a hat-trick against Pittsburgh. And Stefan Cronwall loves his fans in Toronto. Alright, so yeah, that's the pizza stuff and everything. So that makes him a better person. Alright, so about to play the Thrashers. Atlanta is 31-23-6 this season. That's good for third in the East. They are atop of their division. We are 2-0 against Atlanta this year. Let's see if we can beat them on home ice. They're going to send Kari Lehtonen in net. We are going to Brian Elliott. And we won 5-2. We outshot Atlanta 49-22. Marian Osa was the first star. He had a goal and 2 assists. Patrick Elias was the second star with a goal and an assist. And Anton Volchenkov was the third star with 2 goals. 17,272 people in attendance for this game, and we took a 3-0 lead into the first period. So Anton Volchenkov scored from Joe Thornton and Brian McCabe, then Marian Osa from Patrick Elias and Mark Streit, and then Patrick Elias from Marian Osa. It was 3-0 after 1. Then nobody scored in the second period. And then in the third, Atlanta scored 2 goals to come to within 1. But then shortly after, Anton Volchenkov scored his 10th on the power play from Marian Osa and Joe Thornton. And then Mark Streit from Zdeno Chara, 5-2 was the final score in this one. Alright, and the Panthers may make a coaching change. Gerard Gallant might get fired. I wonder if that's a feeling of déjà vu for him. that was so weird how he got fired in Florida. Like, there were those cameras showing him like having to take a taxi or something. Suspension for Phoenix, Mikael Samuelsson. He's going to miss 2 games. And Lundqvist is going to stay with the Rangers. 4-year extension at $4.99 million per season. A lot less than what Roberto Luongo is going to make with the Islanders. Alright, so next game is in 2 days, and it's going to be at home still. And it's going to be against the Oilers. Alright, Ryan is available. Matt Jones and Samu Isosalo. Alright. Oh, look at that. Didn't I say that if the game is pretty realistic that Rafi Torres would get suspended a lot? Well, he's suspended again. Look at that. For how long this time? 5 games. Go back to being suspended. You just came back too. Alright, so we are about to play the Oilers, and we have not played them so far this year. Edmonton's having a pretty decent season. They are 35-21-3. Let's take a look at their lineup. We have not played them. Alright, so Daniel Markov is going to be missing this game with an injury. And then Jarrett Stahl may or may not play. He's hurt. So in net, it's going to be Ed Belfour and Devan Dubnyk. So that's pretty solid. I mean, Belfour is 41. You ought to think that he's about to retire, probably. He's still a star and a half, though. Then Semyonov, Sean O'Donnell, Jonathan Girard, Baumgartner, Grabeshkov, Matt Green. Yeah, that D is not too great. Dean McCammon, Patrick Thorson, Ryan Smith, Brian Wilsey, Sean Orkoff, Jason Arnott, Cal Brodziak, Boyd Devereaux, Jarrett Stahl. Which Nordquist is that? Jonas Nordquist, Andrew Cogliano, Jason Chimera Leshemsky, Kirk Malby, and Miroslav Shatan. They have a pretty decent team. The D doesn't really impress me. They do have pretty good forwards and good goaltending though, so I guess that, you know, their record makes sense. Alright, they're gonna send Devan Dubnyk in net. We're gonna go to Brian Elliott, and we lost 2-1. So our first loss of February. Let's see if Eugene Melnyk still likes me after losing a game. We did outshoot Edmonton 30-24 in that one. Andrew Cogliano was the first star. He had 2 assists. Mark Streit was the second star with a goal. And Matt Green was the third star with a goal and an assist. We had 15,471 people in attendance for this game. So nobody scored in the first, and then all the goals were scored in the second period. So Edmonton took a 2-0 lead, and then Mark Streit scored his 15th from Zdeno Chara. It was 2-1 at that point, but nobody was able to find the back of the net in the third period, so that's how we lost. Right, good night for Nicklas Backstrom, who had a goal and 4 assists against the Montreal Canadiens. And Brett Etiken has arrived at 1,000 games played in his career, and that happened against St. Louis. Didn't get a point. 36 years old, Brett Etiken, and he's still a star and a half. A night to remember for Oleg Teredovsky, who had 4 assists against St. Louis in that same game. Sheldon Surrey ahead of schedule, that's good. And then we have a trade proposal from the New York Islanders, who want to trade us Ryan Caldwell for Tim Gleason. I declined, in case you weren't watching the screen. I said, no way! Ooh, the trade deadline is this month. I did not know that. Okay. Kip Miller's suspension is ended with Chicago. Then, as I said, we are approaching the trade deadline. Alright, so we are about to play the Buffalo Sabres again. So right now they are 22, 36 and 2. That's good for 14th in the East. We are 6-0 against Buffalo, and that rhymes. Alright, Brian Elliott in net for us. Martin Biron in net for Buffalo. Ooh, we lost 4-1. Look at Buffalo giving it to us. So we outshot the Sabres 46-23. Radek Martinek was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Martin Biron was the second star with 45 saves. And Jason Pominville was the third star with a goal and an assist. Alright, so Buffalo took a 2-0 lead into the first period. And then nobody scored in the second. And then in the third, Pominville made it 3-0. Then Brian McCabe scored on the power play from Mark Streit to make it 3-1. But we were never in that one apparently, except for the shots. But we just couldn't score. Uh-oh. I don't know what that means, but Osa is hurt. Oh, he's just day-to-day, okay. Has a swollen elbow. Is that what olecranon bursitis means? They could have just over here in the email title right there. They could have just said swollen elbow. That would have been fine. All right, so he's day to day. We already lost Marianosa once to an entire season, so I don't want for him to be hurt again. Tom Fitzgerald is back from suspension in Chicago, back in the lineup. Christian Backman in LA is suspended. He's going to miss 2 games. Mikael Samuelsson is back from suspension in Phoenix. Oh, Dwayne Rolosson has been put on waivers. That's been happening a lot lately for him. Alright, Sheldon Surrey is recovered, and then we have a trade proposal from the Islanders again, who want to trade us Dustin Kahn for Chris Neal. I do not believe so, buddy. Sorry. Looks like you're very interested in my players, but you're not offering me anything that is remotely close to be acceptable. Alright, so Buffalo again on the menu. That should be the last game against them this season. So we are going to play them at home. So they are now 23, 36 and 2. Still 14th in the East though. And then there's only 3 games left in February here. So we are now 6-1 against Buffalo. Obviously, we just lost against them last game we played. Martin Biron in net. Brian Elliott in net. We won 4-0 this time. Look at us. Rebounding after a couple losses with a shutout. So we outshot Buffalo 40-17 in this game. Mark Streit was the first star. He had a goal and 2 assists. Jason Spezza was the second star with 2 assists. And Daniel Alfredson was the third star with 2 goals. So Alfie scored the first goal of the game in the first period. It was on the power play from Chris Kelly and Mark Streit. And it was 1-0 Suns after 1. And I forgot to say that we had 16,991 people in attendance for this particular game. Then in the second period, we had Pavel Datsyuk score on the power play from Mark Streit and Joe Thornton. And then Daniel Alfredson scored his 15th on the power play again from Jason Spezza and Martin Avlat, and it was 3-0 Sens at that point. Then finally we scored an even strength goal. It was Mark Streit from Pavel Datsyuk and Jason Spezza, and 4-0 was our final score. Nice little shutout. And in that game, Travis Moen got suspended. He's going to miss 6 games. And then Brooks Lake was probably the recipient of that dirty hit. Excuse me. And Brooks Lake is now day-to-day. Alright, well, I guess we are playing our spare players. Alright, so in 3 days we're gonna go ahead and play in Carolina. We have 2 games left, and it's a home and home against the Hurricanes. Pavel Dimitros set everything up tonight. He had 4 assists against Atlanta before coming to play us. There was no stopping Antoine Vermette, who had a hat-trick, 3 goals against the Washington Capitals. Alexei Kovalev has racked up 600 goals in his career with a goal against Columbus. So Alex Kovalev is 34 and still a 3-star player. Oh, Mickey Dupont's been put on waivers. Jerome McGinley is suspended in Dallas, is going to miss 5 games. Strong night for Jaromir Jagr, who had 3 goals and an assist against the Tampa Bay Lightning. David Gove is available. Not sure I've heard of him before, so I'm not going to pick him up. Mickey Dupont is back from suspension, so he should be back in the lineup, although he's been sent down. And then we have a trade proposal from the Boston Bruins. I bet they want Chris Neal. That's their type of player. Aha! And they're offering me Matt Unwick for him. I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to not, think with my heart, because Chris Neal was a Ottawa Senator for his entire career. But Matt Unwick might end up being a decent defenseman, and I'm not resigning Brian McCabe. No, I don't think Matt Unwick is going to be as good as Brian McCabe, but I do have a spot in the lineup. You know what? Sorry, Nealer, but I think that in my universe, you're not going to finish your career in Ottawa. I accepted the trade, so Matt Unwick for Chris Neal. Unwick is also younger and everything, so I kind of like that deal for us. I really do. Alright, so we are about to play in Carolina. The Hurricanes right now are 32-26-6. That's good for 9th in the East, and we are 0-1-1 against the Hurricanes. We have not been able to beat them this season, so nothing better than, beating them twice in 24 hours to feel better about ourselves. So let's go ahead and get that done. So Brian Elliott is going to be in net for us, and we are going to be facing Cam Ward. And now I just realized I made that trade in Chris O. I might have a defenseman playing forward in that game. Oh well. And we won 3-2. Alright, we outshot Carolina 51-18. Brian McCabe was the first star. He had a goal and 2 assists. Todd Ziegler was the second star with a goal, and Jason Spezza was the third star with 2 assists. So Carolina scored first, then we had Pavel Datsyuk tie the game with assists from Brian McCabe and Jason Spezza. Then in the second period, Brian McCabe scored on the power play from Alexei Yashin and Mark Streit. Then Joe Thornton scored his 10th from Brian McCabe and Jason Spezza, 3-1 after 2. And then in the third period, Carolina scored to come to within 1, but they ran out of gas and we took the W. Oh dear God, Montreal made a big trade apparently or something. Before we take a look at that, I am going to take a look at my situation here. Who do I send down? I have to recall a forward because I did trade Chris Neal. So let's take at Drazinovich. 29 points. Greening has 28. 35 for Roman Wick. Ooh. I think I'm recalling Alexander Radulov. Let's see if he can impress us. I had a lot of great choices. Looks like they're having a good year in Binghamton. I really wish that in future iterations of the game that they had, you know, actual AHL games being played in historical. I don't even know if it's there in like if you start present day. I never play present day, so I don't know. Alright, so Radulov has been called up to replace the now departed Chris Neal. Oh, I shouldn't say it like that. Make it sound like he's dead. Alright, so Jaromir Jagr has competed in 1,250 games in his career. That's pretty good. Celebrated with 2 assists against New Jersey, a team he has played a lot against, I'm sure. So 35 years old, Jaromir Jagr is still a 5-star player. Terry Murray may be fired in Dallas. They're not doing too hot. They are 29, 28, and 5. Alright, and so Montreal made a trade. Let's see here. Oh god, the Blues got fleeced. Oh, alright, so Montreal traded Marcel Osa, so Marian Osa's brother, and Sean Avery to the Blues for TJ Oshie and Brad Defoe. So Marcel Osa, 1-star player, 1 star, and then Sean Avery, 2.5, and then TJ Oshie obviously is the big player in there. He's only 20 right now, and he's a 1-star player, but he is 4.5-star potential. I hate to see that a team in my division fleeced another team like that. I guess it needs to remain competitive for me or something. Alright, and we are ready to play the very last game of February, on the very last day of February. And it's against Carolina again. So they are 32, 27, and 6 now, and they are still 9th in the East. So let's see what happens now. Alright, so Brian Elliott in net for the Sens, Steve Veliket in net for Carolina, and we won 5-0. We outshot the Hurricanes 51-11. Jason Spezza was the 1st star. He had a goal and an assist. Joe Thornton was the 2nd star with a goal and an assist, and Mark Streit was the 3rd star with an assist. We had 17,144 people in attendance for this game. Jason Spezza scored first in the first period from Joe Thornton and Pavel Datsuk. It was 1-0 Sens after 1. Then Martin Havlat scored on the power play in the second period from Mark Streit. Then Marian Osa scored short-handed from Brooks Like. And Patrick Eliash from Daniel Alfredson. It was 4-0 after 2. And then in the third period, we had Joe Thornton score on the power play from Martin Havlat and Jason Spezza. And 5-0 was our final score. Shea Weber extends his assist streak to 8 games with an assist against San Jose. Alright. Marianosa close to returning. Yes, please. Brooks Like not far from returning. Bring him on. Players of the month were Sidney Crosby and Brian Elliott. So I believe that's 2 months in a row that Brian Elliott wins it. I don't remember if it was last month or the month before that he did. I just remember that he did. But anyway, so we are now on March 1st. So we're going to take a look at standings. So we are 9 points ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins. But they have 2 games on, so there's still a chance that we don't finish first in the Eastern Conference. And if we look in the West, now Nashville is first. So after last month it was Columbus, I believe. So now it's Nashville first, Edmonton, Anaheim, Columbus, Detroit, Colorado, St. Louis, and Minnesota. So lots of pretty fun stuff going on here. A lot of different teams that we haven't seen all that much before. And the worst team in the league is still the Vancouver Canucks. As far as stats go, we have Jason Spezza with 84 points in 64 games. Then Joe Thornton, 68 in 64. Mark Streit, 51 in 60. Datsuk has started to play a lot better lately, 46 in 64. 40 and 63 for Eliash, and then it starts to dwindle down from there. So yeah. And if we look in the entire league, we can see that there's 3 guys at the top of the goal scoring race with 39 goals each. So Danny Eatley, Jaromir Jagr, and Alex Ovechkin all have 39 goals. The best passer is Sidney Crosby with 61 assists, and Jagr is the best scorer in the league with 95 points. Our best player is Jason Spezza with 84. He's 11 points behind. And as we saw, Pittsburgh played less games. Even more so, Jagr, he got hurt. So he's only played 50 games. He has 95 points in 50 games. He's almost 2 points per game. That's pretty impressive. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. So it looked pretty rough at the start of the season. We lost a bunch of games and everything, but things have kind of turned back around, so it looks a lot better now. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video here, as usual, as I do after I play the month. So I'm gonna go ahead and save the game. And I do want to thank you for tuning in, and if you've liked the video, feel free to subscribe, like, share, comment, all of that good stuff. And until I roll this game again, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.